and welcome back to Visions. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Fran Wills-Napier, who is from Perth, and she's flown down to Melbourne to talk about the Festival of Spirit she's organising here in Melbourne. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Now, can you tell us, what is your vision, since the show's called Vision, for a just society, a beautiful, beautiful Melbourne, a beautiful Perth, a beautiful Australia, a beautiful world?
Right. Well, probably because my own background is cultural, you know, because, excuse me, my grandmother is Italian, and they were called wogs then, and that upset me, you know, to understand that my grandmother was referred to as a wog because she was a great lady. Then I have two very beautiful adopted children. I call them my chosen children. Ryan, and he's Burmese, part Australian, and Diana, who's from Mauritius. And they came home when they were very, very young, little babies.
Because you had one of them at 5 weeks or something, and one at 5 months, or 6 weeks and 5 months?
Yeah. So,
respectively,
yeah. So they've been an inspiration to me always, and I've loved sharing my life and as a mum with my children.
Oh, beautiful. And did you find that they even though they came so young, did you see different cultures coming out in them as they grew up, even though they didn't have it with them, or they just were very Australian?
Very Australian, yes, they're very Australian.
I suppose they'd have to be if they were brought up here.
Very ochre, yes, very ochre.
Yeah.
And but it's still, you know, the concern that I had as they were growing up, because their colour outside, they were discriminated against. And I guess the theme, you know, what I've always wanted is a tribute to them, and that's why the festival is now, as different to the past, is opening up another door, including the conference side and the health, but you know, that part that's living in harmony.
But they're also probably loved a lot as well.
Very much so, yeah, they are. And they're actually coming over to be part of the festival.
Okay.
So, and go on.
And you also like to work a lot with sensitive children. You were talking a little bit off camera about it's often the children that start, or teenagers that start getting into drugs and alcohol. It's only really because they're so sensitive that it actually starts. That's a different insight which maybe some people aren't even aware of. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, I've personal experience with my son. You know, he's travelled that pathway, and you know, I think he's taught me more about being a counsellor than any book could ever do, and the care. But it's because he's very sensitive, and the discrimination out there created an escape. He needed to escape. And people are, you know, they've even psychically, they don't understand how sensitive they are to people's feelings outside. You could feel someone else's feeling and take it on as your own. So there are many out there who follow a pathway of drugs, etc.
Well, say for example, if someone like that's watching now, what sort of advice or words of guidance could you give them if they feel really sensitive and they do take on board what everybody else thinks of them? How could you give them some help?
My greatest advice, and it's exactly what we're doing, the vision that I have, and what we're going to do is open a centre, first in Perth and then in Melbourne, for these very sensitive, like, you know, children, young children, older kids who are caught up in the drug and alcohol area.
But what are some ways that they can deal with it now? Like if they're not going to come to Perth and they're not going to go to the centre, like they're watching TV now, can they do something now about their lives?
Well, yes, go for help. Really open up and know that they deserve the assistance. And if they're, you know, to be aware that their sensitivity is respected and that their belief in themselves, they've got to open up and start believing more that they are a worthy human being and that they deserve respect. A lot of the kids, because they've been judged, there's no one to trust, and they're angry. So you have to, when I'm working, you know, I had the privilege of working with many, and so when I work, I, you know, really allow them to feel comfortable with me. It's not a quick fix, and they really need someone to trust. And the good part, see, I call it cheating, but I can actually go into the centre of how they're feeling and then explain how they are feeling and what their gifts are and what they're worthy of.
And with their anger, how do you help them deal with their anger?
Their anger. Well, it's like quite a few areas, because they need to actually look at where they've come from. You know, they may have been thrown out of home, they may, you know, have, well, the normal defiant young person walked away. So the first step is to embrace them with love and respect, and draw out their qualities rather than focus in on their anger. And it's amazing how that can turn around. I've got volunteer counsellors ready to start work, and also reformed addicts who are there to help
Them as well. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so
and tell us a little bit about the story, just briefly, about your grandma.
Oh, my grandmother. You know, she's she was my greatest inspiration as a young child, and when she was young, she was actually, you know, ran free and had a beautiful life herself, an outlook. So, and she became my mother, so she actually brought me up.
Oh, beautiful.
Inspired me.
It's been inspired by her to also have a very positive outlook on life and help others. And
and it was during my, I realised that even as young as I was, I still knew there were, you know, I had a vision to open the doors for understanding and expression. So I listen in, and hence the festival. It's created.
Gorgeous. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program.
My pleasure, Morella. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, you've been watching Visions. Our guest was Fran Wills-Napier, who's organising the Festival of Spirit in Melbourne. Hope you enjoyed the program. I'm Mirella Rich. See you again soon.